last week, pretty awful, but I ended up getting 6 of 6 through cash. It was something not many people did. It was under 10%, but a lot of that did not matter, as the only people that did well were people that had top 10 golfers. And if you had two guys that made the cut, you might have lost points on DK this past week. So not something that mattered last week. Hopefully it's something that matters this week. John, you've been killing it on Yahoo, and as we were talking about earlier before we started recording, there is a ton of value. So looking forward to seeing some of your Yahoo plays, and I might have to increase my exposure over there. But let's get going on the course. And as always, you had a brilliant preview breakdown for us on the website. But tell us a little bit about what's going on for the Twin Cities, your backyard.
That's right. TPC Twin Cities is only a few minutes away from my house here in Minnesota, so that's kind of exciting. I did get to go to the event last year. No fans this year, so certainly won't be attending. I am not a volunteer, unfortunately. But yeah, Blaine, Minnesota. This is an Arnold Palmer design. Tom Lehman also helped design the course, really kind of as a consultant. 7,500 yards, par 71. This is 3 par 5s. All of them are very gettable. We're going to see guys getting birdies and eagles, especially on 18 there as well, like we saw last year with Wolf to come out ahead. We've got a pretty decent field, a couple of top names. People are excited to see Tommy Fleetwood come back, as well as Brooks Koepka is going to be here and Dustin Johnson. Really, we're going to focus on a few stats this week. I already mentioned the par 5 scoring. This is definitely an approach course, a second shot course. Off the tee is not quite as important as it has been some of the past weeks. Driving distance is going to be in our model, but not so much off the tee. So ball striking approach. We're also going to take a little bit a look at opportunities gained. Birdie or better. We know guys are going to be able to go out and score. The winning score was 21 under last year, so we definitely need guys who are going to put up some low scores. I'm also looking at proximity. These are going to be some soft greens, bent grass. Guys are just going to be firing at pins. So I expect anybody who can get it close, one putts, lots of birdies, lots of eagle chances. So that's really what we're focusing on this week. Very different from last week when we were trying to avoid big numbers. This week, par is a bad score on a lot of holes.
Yeah, I was going through a course breakdown on Fantasy National, and I noticed a lot of those 2% eagle chances on those par 5s. So very gettable opportunities for some big scoring this week. And honestly, after watching Kevin Streelman shoot 6 over and then like, I don't know, 7 over and losing almost 2 or 3 points on DraftKings after making the cut was enough for me to get ready for another birdie fest. So
Sure.
I'm looking forward to it. Unfortunately, I feel bad you can't make it. Yeah, you can't make it to the event this year, but it's going to be a fun week. I'm looking forward to it. So let's get going on this 10K and higher price range and kick us off with your favorite play.
All right. So obviously the meat of the talent in this field is located in the 10K range. You'll see as we get along here, there is not many guys that you're going to be happy clicking on as we get down to the low 7s, 6K range. It's pretty ugly down there. For me, my number one guy here in the 10K is Paul Casey. I was on him last week. He did disappoint us. Unfortunately, he missed the cut by 1 stroke. That was due to a 5 over par on Friday. I think the winds got the best of him. He did gain on approach, but he was just abysmal around the greens. So it blew up his round. I'm looking at him over his last 50 rounds, number 1 in approach in this field and ball striking. He is top 10 in proximity, par 5s, tee to green, and those opportunities gained. So really all of the stats I focused on, he's top 10. He was number 1 in my model when I ran it. I ran it a few different times, looking at it different ways. Still number 1. I'm going to be playing lots of Paul Casey this week. It's his first time here at the 3M. I'm not scared of that at all, since only a handful of guys really played well last year that are back this year. So he's going to be my number 1 click here in the 10K range. I expect that's probably going to be chalky since he's at the bottom of the pricing there at 10-1. But I certainly think that he is worth the shot. Maybe in cash. I don't know. We'll see as we build. Be tough building with guys over 10K this week. So that is my number one. Who are you looking at to start off in the 10K and above?
Well, I thought Paul Casey really good pick. I think that's a really good cash play. Is his his iron shots are really on point every week. It's just what he does with the putter, and like you said, the wind got the best one last week. So solid cash play pick for Paul Casey. I like that. I'm just gonna quickly break down. I wrote everybody up for the 10K. I just wanted to break it down because I think it's imperative that we talk about the 5 best golfers in the field. So I got DJ with back-to-back 80s last week. It was pretty abysmal. He lost 4.1 on the approach, 6 on the putter, 6 tee to green. I mean, this the worst 2 collective rounds DJ shot back-to-back in his entire career. So I'm not sure what to make of that, because the week before he comes out and he wins at the Travelers. He gains 6 on the approach, 6 putting. Basically the complete opposite of what he does at the Memorial this past week. So it's like, what do I take as where his form's at? Is he playing like he's going to play at Memorial, or is he going to play like he's playing at the Travelers? With the, I think for me, I think with the field that he is playing in, I will have to have exposure, because if you're going to tell me Dustin Johnson's going to be playing with, players like Lucas Glover at 9.4 and Russell Henley at 9.2, I just think the separation between his talent and everybody else is warranting ownership. The problem is like we were referring to earlier, is that there are no golfers in this pay range in the low 7s that you can trust to put 2 or 3 of them in your lineup. And unfortunately, in those big contests like the Millie Maker, you're going to have to find 2 or 3 of them that make the top 5. So it's going to be a tough week for that long MME contest. So I think cash is probably a very stable build this week for lobby contest selection. I'm just going to keep going with one more, probably my favorite guy in the group, which isn't going to say a lot because I don't know how much of these top guys I'm going to have, I guess would be Brooks. And I think what I like about Brooks the most is he's 156 in the FedEx Cup standings. If he wants to make the playoffs and make more money this year, which I don't know is ever a problem for a guy that's won 4 majors, I'm just thinking maybe he has a little bit of motivation to make a little more motivation to make a playoff push. He would have to win an event like this, or top 5 in an event like this, after a couple of bad weeks in Columbus. So, he's 65 here last year. I don't take that much into account, but it does help to know that he's played the course. I think he gives him somewhat of an advantage, not too much, but that's still something to account for. He hasn't gained on the approach in 4 straight weeks since the restart, so that's alarming. It's like Brooks is like scrambling his life around these courses, and I just worry that he's going to be scrambling himself around water, and Brooks is pretty notorious for finding water, as you could see last week. He found every creek. So I don't think I'm going to have much exposure up here. Is there anything you want to say about Tony Finau?
Yeah, I'm interested in Finau quite a bit. I know he fell off a bit on Sunday back at the Memorial, finished the T8 with obviously shooting over par on the weekend. Everybody shot over par on the weekend, though. Yeah, 6 over par on Sunday kind of knocked him back. He was T2 going into the final day. But I'm interested here. 4 out of 5 cuts since the stoppage. He was 8th, obviously, last week, gained 6.3 strokes putting. So I don't know if he can repeat that, but it was on bent grass, bent POA, and we're on bent this week as well. So I think that might be able to translate a little bit. It's his best putting surface. If I'm looking just a little bit longer, last 36 rounds, he's 6th in ball striking, number 1 birdie or better, and number 1 tee to green. So certainly I like those numbers here. He's also really good in the wind. Early forecast does show a chunk of wind here coming in. We'll obviously take a look on Wednesday and see how much impact, or if there's wave stacking. Not really sure here on a Monday. But definitely I see wind in the forecast here for Minnesota. So I'm looking at guys a little bit on the wind here. And then last thing, he was 23rd here last year, even though he lost strokes putting. So if he can turn that around just a few strokes, I could see him finishing top 10 here and returning value for the 10-9. Probably can't get there in cash, but I like Tony Finau this week. I'll probably have some shares.
Sure, yeah, Finau playing really well. He had came out fired up last week. Him and Rahm were off to a hot start. Well, this is the first week we're ever going to see Tommy Fleetwood. Finally, been 4 months since we saw him. Honestly, I don't know what to expect from Tommy. I don't know what form he's in, if he's been playing. I'm sure he's been playing back home in England. I can't say much more other than he has a fifth at the Arnold Palmer in 2019. This is another Arnold Palmer course. He did miss the cut on the Arnold Palmer this year. He did not play well, but he did have the top 5 at Honda. This is his debut at 3M, and long-term model tells me he's a good play. He has 11th in par fours from 450 to 500 yards, and he's 21st in proximity from over 200. So he could play a longer course. He's pretty straight out the tee. He's a really good putter as well. Like I said, I just don't know where Tommy's been and what he's been doing. What do you think?
It's tough to gauge. I think fading him completely is a mistake. I think that if you're building something like, let's say, 3 lines, you definitely want to have him in one. That being said, you probably need to fade 1 or 2 guys out of this 10K range if you're going to build that way, playing 1 Fleetwood line, maybe 1 DJ line. You're going to end up having to miss on somebody. So, but Tommy's really interesting here. I think he's going to get a lot of ownership too, because people love just to play Tommy Fleetwood. They see the name, they're going to see the other guys in this field and say, yeah, give me some Fleetwood. So I could see him being a little bit chalkier too here versus a couple of the other plays, like maybe Brooks will be down this week after the weekend performance. So we'll have to see. But it's interesting. He's a tough one to gauge.
Yeah. I think I'm with you. I think a little bit of an ownership on Tommy is warranted because he's just too good in a field like this. That being said, let's pop down to 9K. Give me your favorite 9K play and let the hunt begin for our favorite golfers.
That's right.
that aren't that good.
I'm probably clicking on the chalk here right now, but Lucas Glover is going to be my first guy I'm going after here in the 9K range. He is in fantastic form right now since the stoppage. He's got 5 of 5 cuts made. 4 of those are top 25s. Last week, 38th on in an extremely tough field, very tough course. He played it pretty well, though, 38th. Since the stoppage here, he's number 1 tee to green, number 2 ball striking, and number 2 on approach. So the big ones I'm looking at, he's right up at the top. I'm really, really interested here. I think you could start your cash lines with Glover if you wanted, get some savings from those 10K guys as well. And last year he finished 7th place here. He had a 9 under Sunday round to charge up the leaderboard. I'm definitely interested in a guy who's gone 9 under on this course previously. So I'm going to probably play a lot of Lucas Glover.
You know what? You started talking Lucas Glover, and I'm like, you know what? It might be a good start to my cash line. And then I thought to myself, 9-4 Lucas Glover starting my cash lineup. What? I'm like, those are thoughts I just had. But no, Lucas Glover, like you said, everything you said on Lucas Glover is absolute. I think that's a good play. Just going to be tough to swallow the price tag, but I mean, all things considered, he is one of the best golfers in the field, given the nature of the field. So yeah, really good play. Swallow the price tag. Probably a really good cash play. So I like the Glover pick. My guy here is going to be Harris English, and I think that's probably going to be my 1-2 in cash. Glover English. He was 13th last week with six strokes gained tee to green, 3.7 on the approach. He also came in 17th at the RBC, another course where he gained on the approach and gained on the tee to green. And this year he finished 9th at API, so another Arnold Palmer course as I've been referring to, and he gained on the tee to green in that course. So Harris English is coming in with a lot of good form. He's 8th in the model, 10th off the tee, 16th on approach, 3rd in his par fours, 8th putting, 8th ball striking. I mean, it's going to be coming down to him and another guy I'll talk about later for my one and done. Harris English is coming in great form. He did have COVID after RBC, but then we saw him come back at the Memorial Tournament and play without any issues. So I do like Harris English as another cash play here in the 9K range. Is there anyone else you'd like to speak on for the 9K plays?
Yeah, I think I do want to touch on Matthew Wolff. Obviously, he won the event last year. He's going to get a lot of ownership just due to that. I don't think there's anything wrong with playing him. The price tag's pretty steep at 9.7 there. Personally, I'd rather drop down and play Russell Henley here. Russell's got a lot going for him right now over his last 24 rounds, so a little bit more short term. He's number 1 in approach, 7th in proximity, 4th in ball striking, 4th in opportunities gained, and he's number 1 tee to green over that span as well. I do see he missed the cut in 2019, but he lost 3.5 strokes putting in doing so. He is traditionally better on bent grass greens, so I expect that to come back towards the norm. Even if he comes up at even strokes gained, he's going to be, top 30 at that point versus missing the cut. That would be a difference maker for him. Just since the stoppage, 2 out of the 3 cuts, and he was 7th at his last event, the Workday Charity Open. So I do like the form here coming in for Russell Henley, even on that missed cut from last year. That's about all I love in the 9K range. Obviously, there's only a handful of guys, but those are probably going to be my top 2. I do really like the Harris English pick, though, as well. Probably just going to fade Bubba Watson up top, though.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree. Bubba looks like the odd man out, and he's been playing really bad, too. I think he was at one point. He did have a good Friday last week, but, I mean, it's not good, and I don't know what Bubba's really playing for right now.
Sure.
So as soon as we say that, Bubba probably goes out, wins the tournament, just shuts us up. So, but yeah, Bubba not on the list.
Yeah.
I'll probably have a handful of Henley and Glover. So good picks. I'm probably looking at fading Matt Wolff. I don't really believe in the consistency he shows. So I think if I can avoid them 2 and just play the 3 we talked about, then I think I'm good there. But let's get into this 8K range. This is probably my favorite range on the slate. I have a lot of good plays I like to talk about here. I'll let you go ahead and go first and tell me who your favorite is.
So I think without knowing at this point, I think I'm back on the chalk again, but that's Erik van Rooyen. He's going to be the narrative this week. He went to the University of Minnesota, so certainly familiar with the area, the courses. One of their practice facilities is located over there at the TPC Twin Cities. So certainly I could see him being maybe the chalkiest guy here at 8,800. He was 22nd last week at the Memorial. That's even with losing 3 strokes putting. So I could see that coming back just a little bit. If we look at the Memorial specifically, he was number 2 on approach and number 5 tee to green with that 22nd finish. So that's pretty impressive to me. I could see that continuing over with a little bit of rebound on the putting. He didn't play here last year at the 3M. But if I'm looking over like the last 50 rounds, he's number 8 on approach, number 5 ball striking, number 5 on those par 5s, and he is number 3 for birdie or better. Again, I think it might be pretty chalky, but in this range, there's going to be a lot of guys that get quite a bit of ownership with the way that the salaries are balanced. So I have no problem putting Erik van Rooyen in a bunch of lines. Probably if you're trying to win the Millie Maker, he might be a good fade. But if you're playing cash, I think he's pretty solid.
Yeah, very solid. You're probably right on that with the chalk for Erik van Rooyen, but really good pick. Everything you mentioned was spot on. I love it. My guy here is going to be Doc Redman, who has been a ball striking, elite ball striking savant of late. I mean, he's gained in every start since the restart in his strokes gained approach. He's coming off a miscut last week, but he gained on the approach and just lost like 6 on the putting. So didn't have a putter. I mean, those greens were some of the toughest greens these guys are going to face all year, so I'm not going to really take that into account. It was good to see the ball striking, and off the tee was still there for Doc Redman. So I am ignoring his putting form last week and just keep clicking his name this week. He missed the cut last year at the 3M. That's also something I'm not taking into account, but I actually think it's better for him to have seen the course already. He is second in my model. He's second in ball striking, fourth in par fours, second in opportunities gained, fourth in approach, 11th off the tee. I mean, his strokes gained numbers are some of the best in this field.
Yep.
And so I'm going to continue to click Doc Redman's name. That's probably going to be my third cash play. So I've given you 3 cash play. Well, we've both given everyone 3 cash plays from Glover, English to Redman. And that's just crazy to think that those are 3 cash plays in any week. But I mean, that's realistically what we're up against with this field. I think those are 3 solid plays. Anybody else in this 8K range that you are clicking on?
Yeah, I want to make one note. Sam Burns finished top 10 here last year at 8,500. It's going to be really, really tough for me to get him in any DK lineups. He is minimum priced over at Yahoo this week. I could definitely see myself playing some Sam Burns, maybe even in cash. They have a couple plays over there that are minimum priced.
Wow.
Or very close to it. If you want to play stars and scrubs, if you're doing that on DK, you're going to really hate your lineups. If you do it over on Yahoo, you're going to feel a bit better about it. So that's just a note there on Sam Burns. Over on DK, though, I'm going to play the flavor of the week here, and that's Henrik Norlander. Everybody was talking about him going into last week, and then he went nuts and finished 6th overall. He's made 4 straight cuts, 4 out of 5 since the stoppage. If we're looking at just strokes, he's gaining in all the shots gained categories since that. Top 15 in approach. He's actually number 2 in putting last week, so I could see that coming back just a little bit. These are going to be much easier greens to putt on this week, so maybe a little regression for him versus the field. But if we're looking at the last 50 rounds, he is number 1 on par 5s. So I could see him scoring and playing well again this week. I don't know if top 10 is really in the cards, and especially at this price, but something like top 25, I could see him landing there, and he's not going to disappoint your lineups if he were to do that at 8,600. So he's probably my second favorite in this range. I might end up playing a little bit of like Harmon or Homa, but I really do like EVR and Doc Redman that you mentioned are my 2 favorites.
This 8K range is loaded, and it's where I'm going to have the majority of my ownership. I'll have a little bit of exposure to like a Ryan Moore, but my next play here in this range is Luke List. Believe it or not, Luke List was 10th last week, gained 7 on his tee to green. Not as good on the approach as I'd expect from Luke List, but it sounds like his off the tee game has been really strong. He did come in 21st at the Rocket Mortgage as well. So the big thing on Luke that everybody knows is he's either a top 25 or a missed cut. So he's not a cash play. He's a GPP play for upside, because there's a very strong possibility he's going to come out and he's going to, miss 7 to 9 strokes on the approach or on the putting surface, and his week's over.
Yeah.
So really good ball striker, really good off the tee. Just hope his putting's there, and you're going to have a solid week with Luke List. That's something I'm targeting for GPPs. I was sad to see Brendan Todd, withdraw from the tournament, because that was another play I was going to be on. So unfortunately, that is a play I had to cross off. But yeah, some plays here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go back to Homa 3 straight weeks. Yeah, Corey's another one. I don't know if I can go back to Homa 3 straight weeks of just right off of the number for the cut, and it's been brutal. I think everybody's going to have that thought in mind, though. So if you're looking to go against the grain of the entire industry, Max Homa is a really good golfer. He can play well. He has upside. He putts really well on bent grass. So if you're thinking Max can do it this week and everything else is just going to come together, then I feel like he would be a solid play as well.
Yep.
But let's get down into the 7K range. Just brutal golfers to select from. Go ahead and kick us off with what you
Sure. One more note on Homa. He is one of the top value plays. If you're looking at his DraftKings price versus his Vegas odds, he is one of the top golfers on DraftKings this week. Sam Burns was one of the top ones over there on Yahoo. So that doesn't mean you have to play him, but if you're looking at his price versus his Vegas odds, he's a value play this week, Max Homa. So yeah, you're right. Once we do drop down into this 9K range, there's a whole bunch of guys that you might have heard of, but guys that you're not normally used to throwing in your lineups. So I'm kind of going off the charts here a little bit. I'm going to play a couple guys that I don't know that I've played yet this year. I'm going to start with Chase Seifert all the way at the bottom at 7K even. Chase is last 24 rounds, 9th in approach. He is 13th in par fives and 14th in ball striking. So I could certainly see him putting up some big numbers. I should say some low numbers, some big scores here on DK. He was 4th at the Workday Charity Open his last time out, but did miss the cut at the Rocket Mortgage. Those are his only 2 stops since the stoppage has come back here. Looking into him, he gains a ton on bent grass. This is his favorite surface. He is also really good in windy conditions. So I'm going to probably play a bit of Chase. I definitely am not putting him in cash lineups, but I'm going to have some exposure there to Chase. What is your top play in this range?
Chase Seifert is a FSI Showdown hero. He is a big part of the reason why Keats won that 15 grand a couple weeks ago. So I love the pick. Yeah, Chase Seifert, awesome. My guy here is going to be Dylan Fratelli, 7,600. Fratelli is actually a really good play in this range, and he's my him and Harris English are going to be my debate in the one and done pool. He was 22nd last week, and he had an 18th place finish at Arnold Palmer Invitational. He's gained 4.9 tee to green last week, and he has won the John Deere Classic in 2019, which is another Midwest course on bent grass greens. He's 46th last year here. He gained 7 on the approach at the 3M Open last year and 8th tee to green as well. Problem is he finished 46th because he lost 5 strokes putting. So if Dylan Fratelli, much like Luke List, can get the putter rolling, I think he has a good shot at becoming a top 10 hero for us in this 7K range. He played really well last week. Got to meet his childhood idol, Jack Nicklaus. That's something we've seen on the broadcast Sunday. It's something really cool about correlation between playing really well at a tough course and then coming to an easier course, and it just seems to really click for guys. So I would like Dylan to have a big week, and I think that's going to be pretty hard to find down in this range. Anything else you like in the 7K range we want to speak on?
Yeah, a couple more. Carlos Ortiz finished top 10 here last year. I'm certainly interested there. He's definitely a good off the tee ball striker, and he can get those par fives. I think Will Gordon's going to be popular here as well. But for me, my next favorite is going to be Scott Stallings, another guy that I have not played yet this year, except in Showdown. But over his last 24 rounds, he's 10th on approach, top 25 in ball striking, birdie or better, and on par fives. Certainly not many guys are ranking that high in that many categories down in this price range. He did make the cut last year at the 3M Open. If we're looking at where he gains his strokes, he gains the most versus the field on these easy courses. Much better for him than playing the tougher courses like he did at the Workday Charity Open. It's definitely going to be in his benefit to be on this birdie fest type of course. And we're looking just 4 out of 4 cuts made since the stoppage. That's really interesting with a 6th at the Travelers. So I could see the upside for him being top 10. And I will be certainly playing some Scott Stallings. What about you? Anyone else down here at the end of the 7Ks that you like?
I thought Scott Stallings, really good play. My last guy here is probably going to be Cameron Chingali. He ranks 19th in the model, 12th on the approach, 20th on par fours. 30th at the Rocket Mortgage. He gained 3 on the approach there. He was 42nd here last year, and he gained 5.3 tee to green. I thought Tringali, we've played him throughout the year. He does make a lot of cuts, and
Yep.
I think he's really relatively good for his talent level in this range. And low sevens, I think you can't do much better than Cameron Tringali. Unfortunate to see that missed cut at the workday, but I think his play is warranted with that 30th at the Rocket Mortgage and an easier course like that. Some other 7K names I just want to mention. I think the Will Gordon play is going to be popular, and I think that's a solid play. Vegas is another guy I like. Charlie Hoffman. Wyndham Clark seemed to have gotten over his small back injury that he experienced a couple weeks ago. He had a pretty good performance at the workday, I believe. And there's always the DFS darling, Emiliano Grillo. He gains a ton of strokes on the approach, but he can't putt to save his entire life. I don't think he's a bad play for his price tag. I think that he has some good correlation with Arnold Palmer courses. I've seen some good results from him at that course in the past. And then Zhang, I think his name is. What is it? I can't pronounce his first name, but Zhang. the guy. Yeah, Zhang, I think is a guy I found in research that was pretty cool, pretty good. So another guy I'll probably play. I think that's a 7K play. Not too sure about him other than he had good model work, some good strokes gained statistics. There you go. He had a 10th last week, so I think that's pretty good. Not much else. So we'll see what it's a dart throw for me. I don't know if I'm gonna have him in a majority of lineups, but it looks like a solid dart to have.
Yeah.
But I think that's gonna wrap it up for 7Ks. Yeah, I think that'll wrap it up for 7Ks. Let's start in on the 6K range and give it your best shot.
So I don't know why, but I do know why. The model just loves right now for me is Chesson Hadley. Over his last 50 rounds, Chesson Hadley comes in number 1 birdie or better, number 5 on par 5s, 7th on approach, and 10th in opportunities gained. That is top 5 in my model, and he is under 7K. I'm really excited actually to play some Chesson. I don't know that I've ever said that before, but he has made 3 out of 4 cuts since the stoppage. He did miss the cut here in 2019. Again, we've talked about that, just being able to see the course should be to his benefit. He is excellent in windy conditions as well. I'm going to play some Chesson Hadley down here, kind of close my eyes and just kind of hope it all goes well. I don't know if there's a ton of upside, but if he's at 6'9", you can get him like a 35th or 40th. He's definitely paying off to get you that 6 So I'll be playing some Chesson. There's a handful of other guys that I'll have just a few shares of to fill out my 20 max entries. I do like some Cam Percy. He pops in the models for proximity and ball striking. Matthew Naismith, he pops for approach and proximity. And Danny Lee, he's also popping in approach and birdies are better. I don't know if I'll go too much farther down. Maybe the last one, Grayson Murray, popped a little bit for par 5s, birdie or better as well. But it's pretty scary down here. What are some names that you found that you're liking this week?
Oh, careful! I think Grayson Murray got hit with coronavirus. I don't think he's in the field this week.
Well, if he's removed, then that was
yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah. I think that happened today. Yeah, don't play Grayson. I think the only guy I did have Danny Lee written down, so that's another good pick. I think his irons can get hot, and he has a 5th place finish at Arnold API, so good play with him. He can get hot. I think that's a good dart throw. I have Stuart Sink he had finished 47th at the API this year. He has 2 straight made cuts. I got Keith Mitchell with a 5th at API. He was 22nd last week. I got Stefani, who was 15th last year, missed cut at the Rocket Mortgage, but he's in 9th on the approach on the last 50 rounds. I have Bremlett long off the tee, 28th in opportunities gained. And I think my favorite play in the range is Adam Schenk, 39th at the Workday Open, 30th at Rocket Mortgage. He gained on approach in both off the tee and tee to green. So it looks like his irons are playing really well, but his putter is not. I think those are some good names you could play in the 6K range. Anybody else? Looks like you have someone highlighted here.
Pulled up Tom
Who's
Lehman.
Who's this gentleman? Old Tom Lehman?
Old Tom Lehman, he is minimum priced, 6K. He did make the cut at the 3M Open last year. He helped to design this course.
Yeah.
At the University of Minnesota, they hand out a Player of the Year trophy. It is named after Tom Lehman. He did award that trophy to EVR a handful of years ago. Tom Lehman is not a guy that is going to go out and win this event, but if you need a 6K guy that has at least a decent chance to make the cut, Tom Lehman could be your guy here. Tread lightly, but I could see him making another cut here. This is his course. He knows it. So that's just a little tiny guy at the bottom.
Fun fact about Tom Lehman: played 6 weeks for the Outlaw Tour during the pandemic.
How'd he do?
He did all right. He actually missed some cuts, but he made some top fives. Him and his son played all those events in Arizona during the pandemic. It was pretty wild.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. So that'll wrap it up for our picks this week. Let's get going into our one and done selections and get these guys out of here and get ready for another fun week. So I think last week you had edged me out.
Just barely.
For
Yeah.
the one and done.
Brooks really blew it.
Who did you?
Abe Answer, but he had a bad weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I was ahead and Brooks had. Yeah.
It was ugly. This week I hope it was a little bit better.
That was a pretty brutal week.
Yeah. I'm between two guys here this week. Either
So
Glover
if you edged me out, who do you start us off?
Yeah, so Glover or Finau, it's got to be between those two for me. I think since you look like you're going a little lower on the salaries for yours, I'm gonna take Glover, and we'll see how he does this week. I think that's a solid play for a one and done. Good chance at a top 10 or better.
Yeah, I was thinking about going higher because of the lower amount of events we have, but then I thought, well, I kind of just like this. I like Fratelli to win, so I'm gonna take the guy I think is gonna win. So I'm gonna go with Dylan Fratelli. I think it all comes together for him, and I hope he wins. I'm gonna bet him too.
Would you probably get?
So that'll wrap it up for everything this week. Lag caught us. What was that?
What kind of odds do you get on Fratelli this week?
I'm not sure. I haven't even got a chance to look at him. I was fairly focused on DraftKings, but I can't imagine it's anything less than 50, maybe 70, maybe 70 to 1. I'd be good odds to bet.
Yeah.
Well, that'll wrap it up for us. Going to be a fun week for the 3M Open. I'm looking forward to following golf this week. Going to be a good cut sweat this week. Probably going to be a birdie fest. So